I am so excited to be here with you today, and thank you for the team at Actionera for making this possible. If you're watching this recording, you are very likely an expert or an entrepreneur that's looking to make a difference in the world. Well, my name is Danella Burnett, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you about how you can leverage the power of the stage to make an impact, to grow your influence, and make massive income. Is it okay if we talk about some massive income today? Awesome. You're definitely in the right place. So, we're going to talk about the 6 steps to six-figure events. But before we get there, I want to share a little bit with you. If you are here on the Actionera app, you're very likely an expert. And I define an expert as somebody who has a skill or a passion or something to share with someone else that you've acquired through experience, education, or engineering. Either life has handed you something and you've learned how to help other people, or you've got a skill and teaching and training that you want to give to other people. And you're probably passionate about bringing that. Now, those of you that are here with me today, would you say that defines you as well? You are an expert and you're passionate about taking that expertise to the world because you want to make a difference in those that you can help serve. And whether you're helping them lose weight, you're helping them make more money, you're helping them be more productive, you're helping with diversity and inclusion, you're helping train corporations, nonprofits, you want to make a difference in the world. Well, that was me as well. I started my entrepreneurial journey in 2008, and I was an expert. I was passionate, but I sometimes felt like the world's best kept secret. And I speak to a lot of speakers today who sometimes feel that as well. They just know if more people could understand what they're offering, they could make a bigger impact. And this is what business felt like to me from 2008 to about 2016. We had a catering and event planning business here in Georgia, and it was successful for all intents and purposes. We'd grown to about 28 employees. The phone rang frequently, and we did most of our business through referrals. And while I enjoyed when the phone rang and I would hear that Robert told me that I should call you, that you could help us with our event, or you served another bride last year and you can help us. I loved getting those referrals, but I never knew when the phone was going to ring. So I went to networking events and I shook hands, and where I had an opportunity, I'd give samples of our catering, and we grew, but I couldn't count on what was happening next. And so it just felt heavy all the time. Well, we started working with experts, and more frequently, I was in the back right corner of the room where I saw our clients taking the stage and making massive impact to a large number of people at the same time. And people would immediately buy products, or they would set up phone calls and they'd fill programs and services. And, I'm not always the smartest one in the room, but when you see something over and over and over, that's a clue. And if you don't know, success leaves clues. So if you're willing to look for them, which I was, I realized in order for me to make a difference in my business and help more people, I was going to have to take the stage. So that's exactly what I did in 2017. I took the stage. And I started talking about speaking and events and how being in person and having an in-person element to your business made sense. You would never text the kids happy birthday. You're there in person. You would never ask an important question like, will you marry me, by email. You're there in person. You wouldn't go on vacation on Zoom. So my talk from 2017 to 2020 was about how you needed in-person in your business. You might see where this is going, and I had to make a change in 2020, but it's okay. I took the stage and we doubled our revenue from 2017 to 2020. And we were looking forward to continuing to do that. We had Oakwood Occasions. I took the stage. We added Encore Elite Events. We've since added another big business here in Georgia. We started working with more speakers in 2019. We added speakergigs.com, bringing events and speakers together, and we're about to launch another joint partnership called Icon Maker. You can see since 2017, taking the stage has made a big impact in our business. Now, why do I get to share this with you? This is exactly what I've done in my business. I've been an entrepreneur since 2008, multiple books. I speak on speaking in stages, and we help speakers get out on more stages and leverage the power of events. Where did this all begin, though? I was asked one time, why am I passionate about helping other experts? And it all started when I was 9 years old and I found Julia Child on television. Now, this was long before the Food Network had food shows on every single channel, every single hour. But there was something about the passion that she spoke about. And she was on a stage talking about her passions, giving advice, giving expert help, being hospitable, sometimes sampling. And I look back now and I thought it was about the food. And I actually got my culinary degree and went the route of serving and cooking and being hospitable in that way. And I thought it was about the food. But now as I've continued to grow, I realize it's about the passion and the service. So even though it's about taking the stage, it all goes back to that 9-year-old who resonated with Julia Child and how you could use the stage and you could bring expert advice into someone's living room and help impact lives. And so that's what I continue to be able to do today, which is exciting. So this is what life looks like in the event space. It's lots of fun. We thought it would continue to look like this. There's probably some faces that you'll know and you'll see. And I was either taking the stage or I was in the back right corner of the room supporting incredible experts. We all know in 2020, things changed a little bit. That image in the front was my first 3-day event for myself where we launched Speakers Need to Speak in January of 2020. So I had 2020 all mapped out. It was going to look very much like it had before. We were going to continue that event, and we all know things changed. But the good news is events can look like this. Speaking opportunities can look like this. So whether it's in person or virtual, it's about connection. It's about connecting to the audience that you're meant to serve and using the power of the stage to do so. So very excited, this is what it looks like. And speaking and events are still the 2 best ways for you to grow your business. You can leverage for impact, you can grow your influence, and you can make massive income. Let's talk a little bit about speaking strategies, because this is an area that I think we see a challenge with today. There's so many speaking opportunities, but if you don't have a strategy around speaking, it's just talk, and talk is cheap. Nobody has time for cheap talk. You've got to have a strategy about why you're getting on the stage. What's on the other side of that stage? How are you going to leverage that? And I think every time you take the stage, it should be with income in mind. Your time is valuable, so how are you going to get paid for that time and expertise that you're bringing to the stage? Are you going to get paid before? Now, this is also referred to as keynote speaking. It might be training. It might be workshops. This is a great way to make money from the stage. In fact, in 2021, it was, according to one of the most recent polls, a keynote speaker who was a full-time speaker going out for corporations and associations could probably make $80,000 to $100,000 a year. Not a bad income, but that's full-time speaking. And one of the things that you need to know about this type of speaking is your expertise that you bring the audience is almost a given. What you have to show is the value you bring to the entity writing a check. So whether it's a corporation or a university, an association, how are they going to be better for the information you bring their employees? An example I like to use is if you're a health coach. You can speak to a group of employees and help them feel better and have more exercise and maybe get rid of some health ailments. But how does that help the corporation? You've got to show them that if their employees are healthier, there's going to be less turnover, there's going to be more productivity, fewer sick days. So you've got to show your value to both entities if you want to go the route of getting paid first. The second is getting paid during. Now, this is one of my favorite ways of getting paid from the stage. This is where you're on the stage in front of an aligned audience and you make a compelling and juicy offer, and the audience can immediately do business with you. Take out their credit card, fill out an order form, click a link, and you can go on to serve them because you've given them an offer that supports them. This can be one of the most lucrative things that you can do from the stage. My strongest hours have been selling from the stage. What you need to keep in mind here is this might cost you some money to step on that stage. You might be paying a sponsorship. You might be revenue sharing with the host because they've brought together an audience for you to sell to. So you want to make sure that you're asking good questions and you're doing good math. How big is the audience? What do you typically convert? What percentage of the audience is likely to do business with you? Very frequently, that could be between 10 and 20%. And then what is the amount that you're offering to the audience? That equation, the audience times the percentage times the dollar amount of the sale, is your revenue for that time. Now, I have clients who've made hundreds of thousands of dollars in an hour. Personally, my strongest hour has been $42,000. I paid about $8,000 for that opportunity. Now, I don't know about you, but $8,000 to $42,000 is good math any day. I've also paid for some sponsorships where I didn't ask all the right questions, and it wasn't an aligned audience, and it wasn't an aligned offer. So you want to make sure that you are in alignment if you want to make money selling from the stage. Next is getting paid after. Now, this is probably the most common type of speaking opportunity today. Your summits, your podcast, any opportunity that you have to share with an audience, and then offer a resource or a gift or a strategy session where they're going to give you their information and you can follow up with them. You can teach, you can train, you can invite them to your events, to your master classes, to your webinars, to a sales conversation. So you're going to meet your next clients in an audience and then have a conversation and a sale with them later. Great way, especially when you're starting off, because these are frequently not as expensive. They're very, very common, but this is also where people can waste a lot of time. I love podcasts. I love summits. Make sure it's in alignment. We had a client who came to work with us and they got so excited about the podcast directory that we offer our clients that she booked herself on 40 podcasts in 40 days. Now that sounds like a good idea. I'm going to speak every day for 40 days until we dove in, and only about half of those opportunities were really in front of an audience that she was going to resonate with and they would resonate with her. So we helped her gracefully back out of about 20 of those opportunities because she wasn't really going to bring value to the podcaster or to their audience. So you want to make sure, even though the opportunity might be free, it might be easy to get, you want to make sure that it's still in alignment. And the last is getting paid more. Now, getting paid more, I also like to call these authority opportunities. Sometimes you want to get on a stage because it's with someone who has great authority or influence in your industry. It might be the stage itself, something like Funnel Hacking Live or Traffic and Conversion, like big stages where the stage itself has a reputation, and by you stepping on that stage, you borrow that reputation. Or it might be some of the other speakers. If you have the opportunity to be seen with somebody who has a reputation bigger than yours, you get to borrow it. Share those graphics everywhere and borrow that authority. And getting paid more also leads us to your own stage. This is where it gets exponentially good, because when it's your own stage and you can invite an aligned audience that you're meant to serve and make an offer and serve them well, you can make a ton of money. So we're going to talk a little bit about 6 steps to 6-figure events. And why do we want to host events? Again, there's 3 things that we're looking for. The first is income. Now here's an example of one of our clients, Jay Souter, who shares that through the events that we helped him get on, the other stages, generated over $228,000 in revenue, but his own stages, just a handful of stages, well over 7 figures in revenue by bringing an audience together, by serving them well over an extended period of time, being able to make a medium or a high ticket offer. We normally talk about a high ticket offer being somewhere around $10,000, could be as much as $100,000. What would it do to your business if you could effectively share $10, $15, $20, and $100,000 offers to people who were ready to do business with you? The second is influence. This is another client of ours, Bridget Callahan. I always like to point out Bridget. She does an amazing job. She's a PowerPoint expert, and she's done my slides as well. So I always like to give her a shout out. She does an amazing job. But she, like me, was very much behind the scenes. When she stepped out onto the stage, because she has a mission to end slide shame, no more boring PowerPoints, now she's hosting her own events, and she likes to do one-day events where she does it very much workshop style, and she's grown her business exponentially doing that and grown her influence and being invited onto other stages as well. And the third is impact. Now, I always like to bring this up. This is my own personal impact. Impact is what you bring to the audience, but it can also be the impact that you have. As you do well, you can do good. My personal nonprofit is Project Repurse. Since 2008, we have created repurses, which are gently loved purses filled with toiletries and an encouraging note. And at Mother's Day and Christmas, we deliver those to women who are in transitional housing from domestic abuse, addiction, sex trafficking, because Mother's Day and Christmas are the 2 holidays that are hardest for a woman who's trying to come back from rock bottom. So we've delivered over, I don't know where we're at now. I think on the slide here, we've got, 500 or 600. It just continues to grow. We will continue to do this. And part of what I do, every stage I take, every event that I do, a portion of what I do goes to support Project Repurse. You could have a cause, and it doesn't have to be your cause. It could be a cause that you partner with, but you can do more good when you do well. Just one more way of doing impact. So I want to take a little bit about speaking in events before I tell you how you want to create those events and get 6-figure results. I can share this with you because 93, now 95% of our 3-day event clients do $100,000 or more in their 3-day events. If you design it well, you can design that kind of impact. So here's the order you need to do things, because frequently, if you do not get the results that you're looking for in your event, it's because you didn't design it well or in the right order. How many of you have ever taken any kind of archery or even just driving down the road and you realize that what you look at is where you're going to land? And if you're not looking ahead at your goal, it's really easy to drive off the side of the road. Or a friend of mine does archery, and he's pointed out to me that when you pull that bow back, if you are not dead looking at that bullseye, just a little bit off back here, you might not hit the bullseye. You might not even hit the entire target. So I always like to say, for your events, what is the end in mind? What's the end in mind for you, for your audience? What do you want to teach them? Where do you want to leave them better than you found them? What are you looking to sell? That whatever your goals are going to make some decisions about the kind of event that you should host. If you want to generate leads, you might want to have a summit. You might want to have a podcast. You might want to have an event that's going to allow you to get a lot of leads. If you want clients, then you want to have a 1-day event or a 3-day event where you can make that offer from the stage. If you want to bring in a bunch of new people and joint ventures, you might want to do a summit. If you have a community and you want to move them in a new direction, you might want to do a challenge. Your end in mind will help you determine what kind of event you should do. And we have our clients get very, very deep into this end in mind, getting specific with who is sitting in the audience. What are their needs? How are you going to help them and serve them? What challenge do they have that they're staring up at the ceiling at 3 o'clock in the morning looking for a solution for? Because the more specific you can get about the audience you're meant to serve, how you want to serve at that event, the more likely that's going to be your experience. Number 2 is it must make dollars and cents. This is probably the most skipped step when people produce events. Usually they go, okay, I have an idea for an event, and now I'm going to go right to marketing because I need to fill those seats. And they start doing things and they start making decisions about the event without going through this step. I think this is one of the most critical steps because you want to look at where are you going to spend money for your event. And this goes back to the end in mind. If you want a very refined, elegant, high-level event, you might want to do your event at the Ritz-Carlton. You might not have the same results if you book the Red Roof Inn. Conversely, if it's more casual, if it's a more intimate event, you don't want to rent a big ballroom that's not going to serve your audience. So you must have that end in mind and then look at where you're going to spend money in order to get that outcome. So we like to go through the expenses first. So we can take a look at marketing, we can take a look at the team, the technology, the venue, the marketing. Where are you going to spend money? In fact, our budget worksheet has over 100 different expense line items. Now, you don't have to spend in all those areas, but I'd rather you know that they might be an expense and make a solid decision than get a surprise. We don't like surprises at the end of event planning. Then we look at the revenue for the event. There's 17 different ways that you might generate revenue from an event. Now, you don't get to generate revenue for all of them for all kinds of events, but there are things like tickets or multiple different ticket levels. It might be experiences that your audience has or upsells, as we might call them. It might be the offer that you make. It might be raffles. It might be concessions. It might be, you might have relationships with the venue. There might be partnerships, sponsorship. So different ways that you can make money for the event. And if you take care of this while it's on paper, I think you'll agree it's a little bit easier to take out the eraser than it is to cancel a contract after you've already written it. So we do this work on paper to make sure that the event makes sense. Is the revenue that you're going to bring in going to cover your expenses and get you to your financial goals? You can also see exactly how many tickets, how many people do I need at my event? I had one client who we went through this process and she'd already made some decisions, and she needed $5,000 to come from vendors at the event. Well, she'd already started to sell some vendor booths and she was selling them for $200. She only had room for 10 vendors at her event. It doesn't take a math genius. $200 times 10 is not going to get you to $5,000. It would have made much more sense if we'd been able to look at that and then figure out, how do we add value to these vendor booths so it's worth $500? Or do we need to find a way to have more vendor booths for this event? And that's just one example of where doing a budget in this right order before you start Signing contracts will help you have a better event. The other thing that we like to do during this stage is what I call a ticket map. When you've decided how many people should be at your event, let's just say you want 100 people at your event. The ticket map is where you map out where are you going to find those 100 people? Are you speaking on stages? Are you paying for advertising, Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads? Are you joint venturing with others? Are they inviting their people to your event? Are you doing smaller events that might lead to your bigger events? Sometimes I like a summit, which is a great lead generation kind of event that leads to your enrollment event. In fact, I like to call that one the 1-2 punch, because if you design a summit to attract the same audience that you want at your event, you can offer them a ticket during your summit and help fill your enrollment event. But we look at that ticket map. Can you get that many people, or do you need some other ways to attract your audience? Maybe you need to speak more. Maybe you do need to do some advertising. Again, far easier to make these decisions when it's on paper, and then you can track them. Sometimes you might plan to speak at an event and the event host told you there'd be 50 people there, and so you think you'll sell 5 tickets there. What if you get there and there's only 5 people there? You might still sell 5 tickets, but it's likely that you won't get 100% of that audience. So if you're tracking it, you can then make good decisions and still get the results you're looking for. So once your event makes dollars and cents, now you can move to what I like to call logical logistics, which is really just taking your budget and now bringing it to life. Now go fill out contracts and hire your vendors and get your venue in place and decide what kind of catering you're going to have or how much team you need or how you're going to do the marketing. You're just taking all the decisions that you made during your budget planning and you're going to bring them to life so that you're ready for your event. Now we move to marketing. And if you think back to that work that we did in step 1 about getting super clear about why you're doing the event and who should be in the audience, marketing becomes so much easier. Because when you're trying to just cast a huge wide net to fill your event, you may fill your event with an unaligned audience, or you may just be noise out there while you're trying to market. Give you an example of that. We have a client who her expertise is in the intuition and EFT and tapping, a lot of meditation. I mean, literally, there's not a soul on the planet that wouldn't benefit from being more in touch with themselves, having great techniques for stress management and vision and intuition. But if you try to market to all 7 billion people on the planet, nobody will hear your message. So instead of doing one big event, what we did in her case was we decided to do a series of one-day events. And her first event was the Thrive event for high-achieving procrastinators. Now, some of you are laughing because you're like, you immediately knew, like, I'm a high-achieving procrastinator. That's me. I'll be at that event. And some of you were like, that's funny, but that's not me. Perfect. Marketing is about being heard by the people who are meant to hear you and not being heard by those that are going to move on to where they are supposed to be. So we did the Thrive event for high-achieving procrastinators several times. She had a $3,000 offer. It was a coaching program. I think it was about 5 or 6 months in duration. Once we had done that a few times, then she did the Thrive event for yo-yo dieters. Now, I'm not going to ask you guys who's a yo-yo dieter. I will admit myself, but you guys don't have to. You immediately know, though, like, that's me. The beauty in that strategy was 80% of her event was the same. What she changed was some of the stories, some of the testimonials, and how she related to that audience. But the high achieving procrastinators and the yo-yo dieters weren't sitting in the same room. So it was far easier when she was on the stage and making an offer. The right people in the room heard what they needed to hear, and she could serve well and she could serve big. And that's what we want to do with events. So marketing, not mayhem. And if you have that ticket map, if you have the plan, if you have the strategy, it's not frantic. You have a plan and you can fill your event. Then execute with excellence. Now, this in some ways goes without saying. When you're going to do things, do them well. Get the team that you need to support you. Please do not try to run your event from the stage, whether it's your family, your friends, your community, your clients. You hire somebody like us to support you. Have support at your event so that you are able to execute with excellence from the stage, serve your audience well, and be responsive and present with them. Make sure that you have the team and the technology that you need, and you will have a far better experience, and so will your audience. And then after the event, the fortune is in the follow-up, and don't brief the debrief. While things are still fresh in your mind, go through what I like to call the do-overs, the do-agains, and the do-nevers. Do-over is, that was good, but I think we can make it better. Do again is, that was perfect, don't change a thing. Do-nevers are those things that sounded great on paper and they need to be reworked a little bit. Every event has room for improvement, every iteration. But by building an event this way, you can build something that can be repeated, that can be grown, that can exponentially grow and serve you and the community and the people that you're meant to serve well. As a speaker, as an expert, as an entrepreneur, these are the building blocks. Getting good. Do you need training to be a better speaker? Do you need training to learn how to sell from the stage? Do you need image consulting? Do you need training in marketing, in technology? Getting good is an ongoing thing for you as an expert and entrepreneur. Get the support, mentoring, and coaching that you need. Getting clear. Clarity comes from within, and clarity also comes from the environment and the people around us that we're meant to serve. Sometimes the people you serve today, they grow and they change. You might grow and change, or we might have a situation like 2020 where the entire world changes. So clarity is something that you always want to be looking from within and from without. How can you become better? How can you serve in a deeper way? Getting gigs, that leads to clients. I also like to say GIGS, guaranteed impact, guaranteed sales. Get out there, meet your next client, meet your next collaborative partner. Get out there so that you can be seen, heard, and paid. Getting events, I think everyone at some point should be thinking about hosting their own events, whether it's webinars, workshops, masterclasses, summits, challenges, 1-day, 3-day events, big galas. There's lots of options. Make sure that you're doing events that are right-sized for where you're at in business. But events should be part because you can serve your community bigger and better, and you can grow your business and more ways to get paid. As you grow as an entrepreneur and an expert, you might add a book at some point. You might add a membership course. You might add different ways that you can serve the audience that you're meant to serve. So be open to new ways that you can get paid. And by taking these 5 building blocks and continuing to pick them up and growing your business, this is what your path as a speaker can look like. So I hope you've got a tremendous amount of value from my talk today, and you can focus on being a better speaker, getting out there, being seen, and have a little bit more confidence and clarity in how you can build an event that will bring you income, influence, and impact.